Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you for listening in English. I'll go slowly. Today, I want to talk to you about what Cangjie really means to us in the international community and from a European perspective, and also from the perspective of a young OpenHarmony ecosystem. I want to talk about some complexity that exists in OpenHarmony today. I want to explain why there's complexity, where it comes from. I want to show you some examples where we have found complexity. And I want to explain why we think Cangjie is really an important part of the ecosystem that is coming in the next generation for European OpenHarmony. Just a little bit about myself. I'm from a German company called Snapp. We build systems, mostly mobile systems across Europe, and we've been doing this for over 10 years. So our interest is mobile systems and operating systems. We are also part of the Nero project. Nero is a European initiative. It's a very unique initiative. It's a cooperation between OpenAtom and Eclipse Foundation, and we are building an OpenHarmony operating system with some unique features inside it. We have been building various applications since OpenHarmony 3, is when we really started, so we've seen a big evolution. We've built different types of applications and spent a lot of time with ArcTS and other technologies. And we run a community, a developer community called Harmony Developers, where we try to bring news, information, and education to the European developer community. So let me talk about complexity. Basically, ArcTS, we hopefully should know by now, is very simple. It's a very nice language to get started. But eventually, as an ArcTS developer, you are going to find you fall into a complexity problem. And this, for us, especially in Europe at the moment, is when you have to integrate third-party libraries. And as a young OpenHarmony community, this is a big part of the efforts for building OpenHarmony applications. So can we just avoid this problem? Do we need these third-party libraries? The unfortunate answer is yes. We all need these third-party libraries because applications are part of a bigger system integration. And if we want to have payments, if we want to have reporting, if we want to integrate with custom libraries, we are going to have to do some third-party integration eventually. So as an ArcTS developer, I might not want to do this, but sometimes I have to do this. So we just have to accept the reality is that integrations are part of OpenHarmony application development. Why is this a problem? So C++ is the main language for making an integration with a third-party library. It's not a language problem, unfortunately. It's quite easy with AI tools today to write C++ code if you're an ArcTS developer. But underneath all of this, there is some other complexity that AI tools will help with, but you still have to manage that complexity. So let's talk about what is this complexity, and I'm going to highlight 3 causes of complexity that we will find when building applications. So the first is this law of leaky abstraction. Basically what this means is when you have a nice abstraction, it doesn't matter how well built it is or how big it is, every abstraction has a boundary. And eventually, you will get to the edge of that boundary. And when you do, you have to understand all the layers below. And actually, the greater the abstraction or the better the abstraction, the bigger that jump is from that boundary to the complexity. Then we get into Tesla's law, which is the conservation of complexity. Now, what this is saying is that complexity doesn't just disappear, right? You can hide it, you can move it. Sometimes you don't have to even see it, but the complexity is there somewhere. So eventually, if you're unlucky to find it, usually you have a deeper amount of complexity than you are expecting. And then the last one is quite an obvious one, which is the mismatch between different programming environments and languages and paradigms. And if you go, in this case, from a TypeScript-based language to C++, there are some difficulties you will find, not just in understanding the language, but actually how the foundation of the languages work. So these are ideas. Let's talk about some realities from what we've been doing and where we found this complexity. I want to talk about one application we made, which was for Telegram. It's a chat application. It might not be familiar to many people here, but globally it is a very, very big chat application for international audiences. It's a bit like WeChat, maybe not quite so nice. So when integrating with Telegram, it's kind of simple in theory, right? They have a very nice library, lots of documentation, everything's open source. There really should be no problems. And if you want to compile the library, I've written here 4 lines of code, but actually the first 2 lines are creating the build directories. So you really got 2 lines of code to compile this library. It should be very simple. But what you find is that whilst the library will compile and run on your computer or maybe on another platform, we have to know some special things to get it running in OpenHarmony. And specifically, we had to handle complexity such as the lack of thread affinity, compiling against the Muscle C library, and handling the versioning that CMake will automatically apply that actually gets in the way of integrating the library in RTS. And what it means is you end up creating a much more complicated build scenario because you have to modify some of the code, you have to know some flags to set. So this is fine if you're a C++ developer and you spend some time in this world. If you're not a C++ developer, this is kind of scary. So yeah, complexity comes at the edge where, as an RTS developer, I really now have to understand the OpenHarmony platform at a kind of much lower level. In terms of Tesla's law and conserving complexity, I'm just going to take 2 examples of the documentation from OpenHarmony, just to show the point that for RTS developers, it's simple. If the documentation is correct, it is nice and simple and familiar for you. And that's very nice. Until you get to read this, and you want to integrate OpenHarmony with a third-party library, and now I have to know things that I didn't know before. And I have to have quite a low-level understanding that for a RTS developer is not common knowledge. Third, I want to talk about the impedance mismatch, where writing in C++ isn't the problem. What's happening here is that we've got a very high-performance library from Telegram that runs with multiple threads, and it sits and receives information from the Telegram servers. And the speed at which it receives information turns out to be too fast for ArcTS to handle? Well, it's a bit unfair to say that, because actually the problem is we have to get the information from the C++ threads into the UI thread. And that's the problem in this case. So if you don't do this, you end up missing lots of messages because you can't pick up the information from the C++ library fast enough. So you end up writing a lot of code to handle this difference between this multi-threaded environment in C++ and the single-threaded environment in ArcTS. So you end up having to handle the messages separately. You end up probably having to cache them. You've got callbacks coming from the ArcTS that you have to queue and then handle when they can be triggered. So all of these green boxes represent extra code and complexity you're going to have to manage. So that's kind of what happened to us in this journey. Is we started out very simple, writing applications was super easy, and then we started integrating libraries because in Europe we don't have many libraries that have been integrated. And as members of our team found, this is now not really an easy task. But there's good news. And the good news is that Cangjie is going to make this a lot easier. Of course, just a different programming language with different syntax doesn't change anything. So there's something else that Cangjie is going to offer other than just a different way of writing code. And what is that? Well, let's have a quick look here. So we have here a very simple architecture of an application. We've marked here where the complexity is. We have this complexity between ArcTS and lower levels. We have to understand how all of the C++ tool chains work, etc., etc. And some of that doesn't go away, some of that stays. However, when we start writing things in Cangjie, what we see is that the code for writing the application now overlaps enormously with the code for integrating the library. And all of this interoperability between application and library becomes much more natural because we can all do that in Cangjie. And very specifically, there's no development bridge that you have to know. That goes away completely. The news gets better because we actually can keep using some of the ArcTS that we like and love. So if you've already got lots of code written in ArcTS, you can keep that as well. So what does this mean for our complexity? How does it handle that? So yes, there's still abstraction, but it's less abstraction, which maybe is not always a good thing. But on the other hand, it makes integrating with lower levels and lower parts of the OpenHarmony system much, much easier. Secondly, what we think is happening here is that complexity gets moved across the whole application, meaning as an ArcTS developer, maybe Cangjie is a little bit difficult at the beginning, but that little bit of learning curve, and we don't think it's very much, that small bit of effort to learn Cangjie will actually save you a lot when you do integrations. So you're spreading complexity instead of having low complexity for ArcTS and very high complexity for library integration. And the last thing is that this interoperability that Cangjie brings, and it's really one of its, in our opinion, one of its core benefits is the interoperability, means that it's very natural to write code that talks to a C-based library, and it's very natural to write code that talks to ArcTS, if you're even using ArcTS. So actually, the interoperability is just very, very simple in the end. So, should we all just stop ArcTS completely? What are we saying to our developer community in Europe? Well, Yes and no, I guess, is the classic answer for all computing, right? It depends. Our view is that if you're going to integrate a library, and all the libraries that we're going to be integrating will all be written with Cangjie wrappers, will all be integrated using Cangjie going forward. We're going to stop using the NDK. For building the applications, our view is it's better to start with Cangjie, in our opinion. But if you don't want to, that's okay. You can still use RTS. That's not a problem. And if you don't really want to switch, then it's a very obvious world where both languages will fit together. We can see that working very nicely. In fact, with this Telegram application, we kept most of the RTS code. We didn't change that yet. And we just did the integration using Cangjie. So we think in Europe this is going to be really a big change. I think this is going to really help the European OpenHarmony community. We've got a lot more work to do because we're still a young community, and we think that Cangjie is going to really help us, and I'm sure that the community is going to be growing very, very fast with Cangjie as part of the OpenHarmony ecosystem. Thank you.